Hey, thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's review, we take a look at the Storm Collectibles Capcom Street Fighter Ultra 2 Final Challenger Zangief. Today I'll be reviewing this figure in the following categories: accessories, articulation, design, is it essential to your collection, functionality, and price. Once all scores are total, I'll give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. If I sound a little congested, I am sick, so just bear with me through the video. So for accessories, Storm doesn't disappoint. You get 5 pair of hands in total, 2 on the figure which are fisted, so you get some expression hands. You get 2 grabbing hands which look very similar, but upon closer inspection, they are a bit different. The fingers are separated a little bit wider. And we see these hands again. We'll talk about it once we get there. You get 4 head sculpts in total. Very happy with that. Like the expressions on the face. The beard helps to hide, just in case Storm was cheating us on seeing some of that expression carry through. But if you take a look at the screaming head here, you can see the expression continues at the nose, above it. The eyebrows are arched, really like this head here. And then this head is the same as the head I just showed, with the exception of some blood added. I don't like how the blood looks. It looks cheesy, more like red paint than blood itself. And then you get some power effects, which are particular to Street Fighter Ultra 2. So it's done in a yellowish and orange translucent plastic. And you get these green hands, which are similar to which are the exact hands that we saw before. So for accessories, I know that we're missing the white twirling effect that came with the first figure. So out of overall accessories, I'm going to give Zangief a 10 out of 10. So for articulation, the head itself is pretty close to the neck, but the neck is soft and flexible, so you are able to get him to look up that much. He's able to look all the way down, rotate, great amount of pivot. You get some shift back and forth. The arm is able to kick way out, surprised at that. Does rotate a full 360 if you choose to. As you can see, you do have the butterfly joint, which is getting in the way, actually. I'll fix that later. You have an upper bicep cut right there. The elbows are double jointed, but being the bicep is so big, it only bends up about that much. The wrists are on a ball peg, so you get to put it in any direction you need to once you find the right angle. With the torso, you have A and B, my favorite system. So Zangief crunches forward about that much, backwards about that much. Let's try that forward again. Yeah, about that much. But then you can see this bunches up. The top does rotate a good amount. Using a combination of the two, he leans forward that much, backwards about that much. The leg kicks out to the side, only about that much. Forward that much, does go back. Rotate, no upper thigh cut, no extra point of rotation. So the knees are double jointed, bending in that much. The foot is able to go, let's see, this is a big foot, down only that much, forward only that much. You have that Storm Collectibles pivot, which I don't care for, on the in and outside. The toe goes up that much and down. How did I almost forget? The waist does rotate, and you have some pivot in there. Also with the butterfly joint, it moves forward about that much, backwards that much, and it shifts up and down. For overall articulation, Zangief moves very well. There are some areas which I don't want to say hindered, but you don't get a great amount of range due to the size of the muscles themselves, such as the arm and the leg. But I'm very happy with this figure. So for overall articulation, I'm going to give Zangief an 8 out of 10. So for design, I'm left wondering rather, is Zangief big enough? And I had the same feelings when it came to E Honda from the line. So depending where you pull your information from, Zangief ranges in height from 7 to maybe 8 feet and up to 400 pounds or so. So even though that this is a big figure, I don't feel like it's massive. Well, while I'm left figuring that out, let's take a look at the figure. One of the things that I really like is the head portrait. They did a really good job with this. Sometimes my complaint with Storm Collectibles head sculpt is that it's not expressive enough. And with this one, I don't feel that's the case. You can see some expression in the lip, the brow, the nose, all of this area. He is pretty angry. And also the beard looks very good as well. It's textured, coming down to this weird hair patch, and I really love the scarring on this figure too, and it's throughout the arms, the legs. The nipple is painted and there's actually some shading around that. And with the torso setup, I really like how this works. The top piece falls over the bottom, so it doesn't leave that gappage until you start to move him around some. Also, you can see this showing here. It's simply because this soft part of the trunks are out, but if I can get that to sort of flex back, then you won't see that area. I'll see if I can do a better job with that a little bit later. But the reds themselves are vibrant. On the trunks, they're pretty muted, but if you come down to the boots, they're a lot more contrast or saturation to them. Same thing with the yellow, and the laces are painted very well. Good job there. Never noticed before that he had hair coming out of his foot, but he does. Switching him over to the back. One thing about Storm that I do like are the joints. They really look good on the figures. I barely have any complaints with that. And here you have those McFarlane pegs, but they're pretty hidden. You can pull that down some to cover them, so that doesn't bother you any. Pretty sure it's not coming across on camera, but there is some light shading across the body of Zangief. So for overall design, I feel that Storm Collectibles really hit their mark, and I'm going to go ahead and give them a 10 out of 10. So I was able to find the older version of Zangief, which is this one here. And if you look at the two figures, I am surprised that there are quite some differences. Actually really shocked. For one, you can see that the newer figure is actually taller. One of the things that stand out most of all, of course, has to be the flesh tone, one being lighter, this clearly being darker. Now, looking at the two head sculpts, they look very familiar. It is a similar expression, but if you look at the two heads, this one is a lot thicker, much slimmer, and if you turn it to the side for a moment, you can clearly see that this beard is a thicker beard and this one is more trimmed. Now, coming to the chest symbol, the hair, you see that they're actually two different colors. This is black, this is brown, and the shape of them are completely different as well. Coming down to the hair busting out of the boots, again, brown. On this one is black, and the shape of them are different. There are certain subtleties that you can pick up, like the bottom of these boots being gold. On this one, they are white. The laces being completely white here, and the laces on this one being white with a little bit of dirt. The yellows themselves are more vibrant on this one. As you can see, they're a bit more muted on this. And that's not it. If you look at the scars on both of the figures, you can see on the older version they are much larger, and on this one they're smaller, which allowed me to realize this is an entire new scope. Look at the musculature on the leg here. Look at the one here. It is completely different. I can't believe that Storm Collectible actually made an entirely new Zangief. Without a question, I thought that this was a reissue, maybe with some differences, but this is a completely new figure. If I had to choose, I really like the height difference on the new one, and I was feeling that this one is small, so this is clearly smaller, but I like this one more. I like the darker tone. The colors are a bit more vibrant, and I just love the wear on the boots. This looks better to me. And just pointing out perhaps the last two things, if you look around the trunk area, you can actually see the shape of the trunks are different. This one here is more diaper-ish. This one here is more brief style. And if you look at the color, this is a yellow. This one appears to be more metallic, like a brushed nickel with some silver finishing. This is yellow and white. And if you look at the, whatever you want to call these wristbands, they're actually different as well. So is Zangief essential to your collection? So Zangief first made his appearance in 1991 in Street Fighter II. Zangief was a pretty new character as his moves were really based around wrestling, and he's known to be the first fighting game character to really use grappling moves. Zangief hails from Russia, and all the scars on his body is from fighting bears throughout Siberia. Now, as far as toy options, you have a few options when it comes to Zangief. One is from Soto Toys, though that figure is a bit outdated, and it may cost as much, if not more than this. I'll be sure to update that information whether I'm correct or incorrect. Also, Storm Collectibles released a Zangief. So as far as being essential to your collection, I'm going to go ahead and give Zangief a 9 out of 10. So for functionality, let's go ahead and talk about the body itself. So if you're used to having Storm Collectible figures, you know that usually there's a soft overlay. You can see it all here. Now, there are some fantastic things about that. One, It allows you to get additional range where there is none. Simply because this part is soft, it moves back and you can get the head to look up a lot further. If this was a hard plastic, that would not be possible. Also, the paint doesn't scratch. Being that this is a soft overlay over this hard plastic, you can move it without worrying if the paint is going to rub. With two hard plastics, that will create a lot of friction, so then that is great. Now, where the issues come in is longevity. Of course, like how long is this soft overlay going to last? And also, sometimes when you move certain areas, such as the shorts, they were bunched up. I had to get a toothpick to go in here and bring them out. It was as simple as that, but for some it could be a bit frustrating. And you'll notice, particularly in the back, it is that gappage. Now, I don't think you're going to have your figure posed from behind, but it is something worth noting. And as I'm looking in the back, how did I glance over the design part without talking about the muscle definition here and all the shading to them? So before we go ahead and swap some heads and hands off, I just want to show that with the soft overlay as well as the butterfly joint, it works great for this figure who you can consider doing bear hugs. He's able to get very close to that motion. All right, I need to pop that back on. All right, so pop that back on. Very simple to do so. It has a certain tolerance. I'm known for popping those off. So you can see how you can get the arm sort of to close in. That is excellent for a large character. All right, so let's go ahead and swap off one of the heads. What I'm going to do, I'm going to attempt to hold the neck to see if I can hold the stem, and then I'm going to pull up like so. This is still in place, which I'm happy, and let's go ahead and throw on the bloody version. I'm going to do the same thing, hold it, prop it down. I'll probably go off camera just to get the pop. All right, with the head on, let's move to the hands. We're actually going to remove both of the hands. Hands come off easy enough. Pegs are very large. Though I'm a fan of having the pegs inside of the hands themselves, let's go ahead and grab one of the green hands. I'm going to do this off camera. So here are the two hands that I chose. Hopefully these are the hands that work with the power effect. And this is the part that I'm most worried about, as typically with Storm, sometimes getting this to work is a bit challenging. So let me figure this out. Okay, now I don't know exactly how this goes, but assuming that this goes on the hand similar to this, it holds it well enough. It's not going to fall unless you start to shake it. So that works. Looks a bit odd. Let's go ahead and try the other effect. So this piece doesn't fit on all so well. I attempted to fit hands in the groove here. Wasn't successful with that. Not sure if it's supposed to go over the fisted hand, which you can sort of get like that, or one of the open hands, which I wasn't able to get it to stick, but he does hold it. I remember, maybe it was backwards. Like, I think this was like a slapping move to hit the fireball, if I'm not mistaken. Wish that the hand was just already inside of this and you just needed to peg this on. Now, going down to the feet, this is usually an issue with Storm. Either they get it right or they don't. And in this case, they did not get it right. As you can see with the pivot here, it just barely comes up. It barely goes out. And all they needed to do was to cut a little bit more plastic, and that would have allowed for that. So for functionality, I really like this body. Storm continues to do well with their engineering, and I feel that this figure showcased that. Okay, so as I was playing around, this is how this goes. So this piece ports into this piece. So we're going to try that on a hand once again. So this is supposed to go something like this. I'm just reaching my frustration with this piece, just trying to get it to port with the hand inside. It's proven to be a little bit more challenging than necessary, not impossible, but it's just one of those things with Storms that I really wish that they get together. The hand, simply, this should have just been a piece to where this peg was able to plug into, or the hand itself should have been sticking out and you can port it in. Having to connect the hand to where it really doesn't fit anywhere, it's problematic. So for functionality, I will be deducting a point. The hands fall off a bit too easy, and I will also be deducting a point because of the effect piece doesn't work as simplistic as it should. So for overall functionality, I'm giving Zangief an 8 out of 10. Excuse me, a 7 out of 10. I forgot about the legs. So for pricing, Zangief comes in at $105. Add in taxes, add in shipping, you're looking at a price point of roughly $115. So now is Zangief worth the price of admission? Well, let's see what he comes with. In terms of accessories, you get a lot. You get 5 pair hands in total, 10 hands in total, 4 different head sculpts, and you get a power effect piece with some green hands. The only thing that I could have asked for would be the red cape, though I know that it wasn't for Ultra. I think it was for Street Fighter Alpha, but it would have been a nice touch if we're not going to get a Alpha version of Zangief. Now, I'm attempting to get used to the price of import figures. As we know with Mafex, their price point is around here. The Reveltech price point is around here. And Storm figures are larger, more bulk than those figures from those companies. So for pricing, I'm going to go ahead and give Zangief an 8 out of 10. That should give Zangief an overall cliff score of 53 out of 60. So now is Zangief a pass or a purchase? It all depends. If you have the first version as I do, then you can skip out on this. If you are one of the unfortunate people that weren't collecting Storm or somehow missed out on this is great for you. But being that I have the first version, so for me, this figure is a purchase. It's an entirely new body. It's an entirely new figure. And yes, it's Zangief, but hey, having two to my collection won't hurt. Do a few comparisons. I'll leave both Zangiefs here. Again, this is the older version. So here's the Ursa Major, Marvel Legends. So if you want to have them fight, I think this is probably better in scale. If anyone is selling the Riri Johnson right leg, we'll take that from you. If you want to see how they compare to other Street Fighter figures, here's Evil Ryu. Here's the Storm Collectibles Injustice Bane. Here's Joe Fixit. Anybody selling the arms, I'm willing to take those. Here's the Marvel Select Grey Hulk. Not sure why I still have this figure. This thing can't stand. It can barely do much of anything. Here's the McFarlane's Injustice Gorilla Grodd. Well, thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. I hope to see you during the next episode.